All right, so we got our little hoop done the other day. Now I'm going to try and work on the bottom, the tray for this thing on the bottom. And so I'm very tempted. I would like to use the old tray because it's already made for it, you know? And so I just need to modify this thing. Clearly there's some parts on the sides here. These little wing-ding things on the side, I need to cut those off. So there's trim with this, with the rails, with the tubes here. There's some stuff on the back that's gonna need to be cut off as well. Other than that, all this stuff up here is nice to have, and really there's a little hump right here to accommodate the wheel. If you look at the underside of this tray, you can see there's a divot on the underside of it to accommodate for the wheel. So clearly the wheel travels up into there potentially, and we want to accommodate for that. So the simplest way to do that, in my opinion, is just to keep the old tray, you know, and try and make that work. So that's what we're gonna try and do. And then plus, not only does it have that little curvature for the wheel in there, but it also has all the little hookups and everything for the fuse panels and the battery and all that stuff is already made for it. So I'm gonna cut these wingdings off and see what we got left. All right, so for the time being, I think this is pretty close to where I'm gonna want it. I'm gonna take this out and I'm gonna work on doing some other aspects. All right, so before I go any further on the little tray here, for the bottom of the subframe, I want to figure out this part here, which will be my connection point for my saddlebags when they go on here, the rack. And so I want to be able to bolt it through here, but I also want another bolt over here to help stabilize things. So I need to replicate this tube here. This is an very odd dimension, and so in order to replicate it, I'm going to actually have to machine my own little tube. And to do that, I've got some 3/4 inch rod here, solid rod, and I'm going to start by cutting this to the length I want so it stretches all the way across the subframe here. And then I'm going to drill a hole in either side here, and then I'm going to weld it in across here where I want it, and then we'll cut off the middle sections here, so I'll just be left with my little tubes on either end, and there'll be a straight shot all the way through, and everything will be nice and balanced. All right, so let's cut this guy where we want it. Do right about there. Mark that guy, and then we'll cut this, and then we'll go ahead and drill our holes on either end of this piece here. Alright, so we've got our little rod drilled out here. So we're ready to go there. Now we just need to grind out a little section here on this tube so this will fit up in there. Alright, we've got it finessed into place where we want it now, and basically now I'm going to go ahead and tack it in, and then we'll remeasure to make sure it's still where we want it to be. Because I've got it in up here with some vice grips, and I've measured the distance basically from this guy to this guy, and they're the same on both sides, and I'm hoping it will stay that way, and we can weld this thing in. So let's tack it on there, and we'll remeasure and see where we're at. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and unclamp these guys, and we'll measure. Yeah, that's pretty darn close, my man. My man. Alright, that's good. Weld it up. Weld it up, Stan. Alright, we've now got it welded in here. And my next step is to go ahead and cut out this centerpiece right in here. And there he is as planned. It's drilled all the way through. And these guys are nicely aligned all the way through this well. So, pretty happy about that. So now we know where these new little pieces here will hit and what might obstruct their, progress or whatever. And so these little pieces here, these tabs on the inside of this are probably gonna have to be cut off at some point. Not too worried about it at this moment. My next step is basically to make the rest of the tray, because in order to hold this in here, I'm going to have something. And so I'm going to make a metal tray that goes underneath this and holds it up through onto here, onto the actual subframe. And then I'm probably going to have another brace of some kind that goes in and across through here, like that section there. And then we need to do something on the back that sort of seals all this stuff up. All right, so now I'm going to use some tape, and I'm basically going to make a template starting from right about where this guy is and going all the way back to here. Alright, we're finally starting to get somewhere here. I've got this here guy fabricated, so it's got a little bend in it. And it goes up in here and it covers up these tubes here, closes those guys up, and it also works to enclose the sub tray part up here. So this sticks up high enough, and then the seat pan will lay right over the top of this thing, and it'll close everything up in here. So then in addition to that, I'm going to have this plate that goes in here like this, and also helps close all that stuff up. And I'm going to start by welding this guy in. Then we're going to weld this one in. And then over here I've got the license plate light holder, etc. thing. So this guy, still not completely fabricated, but it's going to hold the little white light here for the license plate. And then also up here I'm going to have the actual brake light, and then on the sides we'll have the turn signals on either side. And that will just be one sort of whole unit. All the wires and everything will run off of that. That will slot in right underneath here and just stick out just a little bit out into here. Alright, so this subframe part is taking me quite a while to do. Partly because I don't know what I'm doing! And partly because, well, I'm trying to pull together several different things at one step here, basically. So right here, I'm gonna put in this plate here. This plate I'm gonna weld this in on either side, and this is a heavy duty, like 3/16 inch, and it's going to be sort of a base plate for everything is going to attach to this plate. The things that are attaching to it are going to be, this is going to help pull this guy in and attach that. This is going to give it a mounting point to attach the plastic piece to the subframe on the back part of the bike here. Then we've also got this guy here, and this is going to be a base plate off of which is going to attach the whole taillight assembly. So all of these things, this gets welded in, and then these other things are going to bolt on through the bottom. And I've drilled all three of those out for 8mm bolts. So what I'm going to do now is bolt all three of these things together. Then we'll stick it on here, and then we can start lining things up, make sure everything aligns, and then weld it together. Alright, I'm going to start tacking stuff in here, seeing where it takes us. Alright, now we're moving on to finishing this license plate bracket thing here, and it's going to have all my taillights on it as well. So this guy, I had all kinds of ideas and ponderings about how to do this, but I think I'm going to make it so it just sort of floats out here. And to do that, I'm going to use a few of these sort of 1/4 inch rods. So basically what that means, I'm going to have it sitting about there, and I'm going to have to bend this rod and so that it curves around and comes out and connects to this guy. So let's go bend some rod. All right, so here we are. I've got the rod right there. I've got it clamped on to another rod, a bigger rod here with my vice grips, and I'm going to bend around this rod here in the middle. That's why we got this one of this size. I want a relatively tight bend, and so this guy will heat this up and then bend it straight around this guy and sort of out like that. Alright, so I've taken our license plate bracket thing here and I've fully welded the legs onto this portion up here. I need to now add another brace, another support, a little 1/4 inch rod that goes from here down to here. So our leftover piece from before, what we cut off of this one, is long enough to do that job. So all that's left is to bend this guy so that it goes down there. So I need something close to a 90, right about in here. So right about halfway. Bend it 90, bam. And to do that, I'm going to use this pipe right here. All right, so here we are. I'm using I've got our newly shaped rod here in there. I've got the vice grip clamping it onto the trifecta of rods up here. And I'm going to go ahead and weld it in here, and then we'll take the clamp off and weld it in up there. And there it is on the bike in all of its sort of floaty weirdness. I kind of do like the way it is floaty. I like the floaty aspect of it. It's different. We'll keep looking at it, see if we still like it later. Alright, we've got the rear subframe pretty much done at this point. You can take a quick gander at it right here. That's how it's going to look on the bottom part right there. And how it all came together on the bottom here, whereas I ended up doing multiple things, but I kept the bottom tray, the plastic tray on the front part right in here. And then you can see right up here I had to make another metal piece there to hold that plastic tray up in there. And there's a couple clips, one there and one there on the frame that hold that piece of metal in there and keep it tight against the tubing there. And then that metal piece there goes in those clips, and then it goes up here and then bolts in up there, and that holds that whole plastic piece onto the subframe. And also bolting in on there is this little tail tidy thing over here. That bolts on with those same 2 bolts, and everything all ties together there, but nice and neatly. And then over here we still retain the stock tray from the plastic bike. So the battery and the fuse box connections, all those things are all still have nice little places pre-designed to live. So that makes that a little bit easier. That's what's coming up in the next video. We're going to start working on that seat pan because I'd like to get that done before the weather gets too cold here. I'd like to get something so because that's temperature dependent. You know, it's kind of like painting, so I want to get that done as quickly as possible. But it involves a little switch mechanism that I've got to somehow mount back here, so I got to figure that out as well. So those are some things to look forward to in the next video. Thanks for watching on this video. Keep on wrenching on your projects. See you next time.